Hi, we have Dr. Naveed Sherwani from the Semiconductor Task Force out in Pakistan, and he's leading the Semiconductor Initiative. We're going to find out what exactly are semiconductors, what Silicon Valley based on, and what's happening in Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, China, US, and the world over. And so, thank you, Dr. Sherwani. What is a semiconductor, and why is it so important?
So, the simplest explanation I can give is that the world consists of two kind of things, right? Things which conduct, right? A copper wire, right? And if you put electricity on one side, it goes on the other side, or wood, which is an insulator, which doesn't conduct at all. But then there are some materials which sometimes conduct and sometimes they don't conduct. That's why they are called semiconductors. Now, once you conduct sometimes and sometimes you don't conduct, and somehow if I could control that when they conduct and when they don't conduct, I can use that as a switch, as a something that can be yes or no, or one or zero. If I could make something which can do one or zero, depending upon I wanted it or I computed it to be one or zero, I can build a system of ones and zeros. The entire economy is built on digital systems in which something is either one or a zero or a combination thereof. Semiconductors are chips, silicon chips, consisting of these small devices which can manipulate ones and zeros. And based on that, you can multiply, you can add, you can process an image, you can transmit, you can encode, you can decode anything. As long as it is in zeros and ones, semiconductor devices could manipulate that data, transmit that data, and make it into different forms and shapes that we need to live our modern life. This is how semiconductors started somewhere in 1950s, 60s, eventually has come to a point where no aspect of your society can run without semiconductors or silicon chips. You have schools, you need laptops, you have hospitals, you have all kind of medical machinery, you have communication, your cell phones, banking. There is no aspect of modern life that can you live without semiconductors. And more importantly, the defense of a country also depends on semiconductors. So, from a very humble chip that got invented in 1930s and 40s, semiconductors have now reached a point where every aspect of our economy, every aspect of our defense, every aspect of our sovereignty now depends on semiconductors. So that's kind of is a in the short history and the story of semiconductors.
So a semiconductor is basically a computer, right? And it works on binary code, this ones and zeros, and it's just the heart of any economy. That's what you're saying? Right. Now, where are they manufactured? How are they made? I've heard that they come from Taiwan, like 50%. Can you tell us a bit about why Silicon Valley? Where is the supply chain in the world?
So the semiconductor business started in the United States 1950s when we invented one or two of these switches. We call them transistors, but all they are is capable of generating what yes and no, one and zero. Then we combine two of them, three of them. So when you combine switches like that, we call them integrated circuits or ICs. Then you combine more of them. So if you think that in 60s we had 10 of these transistors or 50 or 100 of these transistors, today in a chip you could have 100 billion transistors. This is why chips are so powerful, is because you can combine billions of them. So the billions of them can do whatever you want. Things that you do on a cell phone you don't even think about. You take an image, you send it to somebody. How can an image go to somebody? Which means image consists of bits, zeros and ones. Somehow you have to send that. Something does that. You scale an image. You so easily do that. You pick a cursor and make it small like that. There's a lot of computation involved in actually all of that is done in these chips. But again, these chips consist of billions and billions of transistors. So in semiconductor, there are five essential industries. One is designing these chips. Somebody has to sit down and say, what are the various different computing elements, and how are they connected, what is the communication, how you communicate with the chips. So that is the design part. We call it semiconductor design. We also sometimes call it fabless design because there is no manufacturing or fab involved in that. The second business is when the chip is designed, it has to go to a factory. We call them fabrication units or fabs. Those factories, they used to be in US originally in 60s and 70s. Eventually it became too expensive. So some went to Taiwan, some are in Japan, in other countries as well, Korea. So now manufacturing is done separate from design. So the people who do manufacturing take design from various different fabless companies and then they manufacture from them. The third business that we have is the people who make equipment for the factories. That's a very complicated thing because imagine putting 100 million transistors in a size of your thumbnail. What kind of equipment will be? I'll give you an example. In order to build this equipment, we use various different chemicals. The chemicals should be pure to a point where it should be pure to the 99.99999. 5 nines or 7 nines after the dot, pure. Imagine if I gave you a sample of something and asked you, can you tell me that it is 99.999999% pure? You don't even know how to do that. Forget manufacturing something like that. So that's how specialized we are. Now, why do we need some purity like that? Is because when the dimension of the chip is so small, a small dust particle will look like a nuclear bomb to something because it is so small. So a dust particle landing on a chip will destroy thousands of transistors because each transistor is only 3 nanometer wide now. If you give you an idea of a 3 nanometer, imagine a human hair. Human hair is about 75 microns wide. If you split it 125,000 times, a human hair, you get there. Imagine that. We do that every day when we're making chips. So that's the third. The fourth kind of people in our industry, the people who make materials that I talked about, that extra pure materials. There are gases, there's air, nitrogen, hydrofluoric acid, all those. So these four components together form the semiconductor industry. What you were talking about was fabs or the fabrication units. Some of them are in Taiwan. It is kind of a misnomer that 90% of the chips are done in Taiwan. The chips are actually done in 7, 8 countries. There are some fabs in Europe, in Germany. We have some fabs in Ireland. We have fabs in US. Korea is a very big center via Samsung and Hynix. Taiwan has 2 or 3 major fab, and then China. So these are some locations where fabrication is done. Design is done in many, many different countries in the world. Most of the design originally used to be in US, but of course we have a lot of design in Japan, Europe. India became a very big design powerhouse because US companies started outsourcing to India. In Pakistan, we are trying to initiate, in Saudi Arabia and other countries have also initiated programs to participate in the design aspect of it.
Excellent. And what are countries like Saudi Arabia now doing about the semiconductor industry? Because you're working there as well. You're spending your time between the U.S., Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan.
Correct.
Can you tell us what you're doing in all of these 3 countries?
Sure. Let's start with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has something called Vision 2030, which says that they will invest, pick a number, $4 trillion in the next 5 years into a country which has 50 million people. Imagine that. In the history of humankind, this has never happened. That a country decided to invest this amount of money into this small a time. The next biggest example we have is of China, of a program called Idai Ilu, also known as One Belt, One Road. And they are spending $2.7 trillion over 15 years in 69 countries. Saudi Arabia program is on a single country and is 2x the size of Idai Ilu. That should tell you what they are doing. They have huge projects. They are building 10,000, 20,000 smart factories, dozens of new smart cities, thousands of data centers. All of that is going to need silicon, right? Where is this silicon going to come from? They have to buy it. But the problem with the silicon in a data center is you buy it. After 3 years, you have to buy again. After 3 years, you have to buy again. So Saudi Arabia has a desire that, okay, we'll buy it. But can we also design it? Can we also build it so that we are not in a constant cycle of just buying again and again and again and again? So with that in mind, Saudi Arabia started a program called National Semiconductor Hub of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I'm the CEO of that program. And our goal is establish 50 fabulous design companies in Saudi Arabia in the next 5 years so that we can start designing some of the chips that we need in Saudi Arabia and for global markets as well. Once we start designing chips, inshallah, we'll start doing manufacturing and other aspects as I talked about. But our first goal and the most important goal of National Semiconductor Hub is to build the ecosystem so that we can establish 50 fabulous design companies. Pakistan, what we are going to do in Pakistan. Pakistan is little bit earlier, does not have the capital base that Saudi Arabia has. So we are even more humbler here. And the idea really is, can we become a trained human power resource, because we have a lot of people coming out of our electric engineering program. So with about 6 to 9 months training, we can convert them into chip designers. And then we provide that resource to all the countries that are looking for designing their chips. Now, why do you need all these chips? Not only the chips are very important for your economy and your defense and sovereignty. Unfortunately, the world is splitting into 6, 7 different worlds now because of the global trade war or competition, whatever you want to call it. In old days, you make one chip for GPS system, it is good for everybody. But for example, now other people don't want to depend on GPS system because it's controlled by USA. So they want to have their own GPS system. Well, then Japan has its own, India has its own, Russia has its own, China has its own. Well, what does it mean? Previously, what was being able to do with one chip, now we have to make 7 chips because all these 7 different GPS systems need different chips. Same is true for cars. Same is true for everything else, which means the world need for designing chips just got multiplied by 7 or whatever your favorite number is, because one chip is no longer good. If Chinese are going to use a certain chip for their car automation, US is absolutely not going to use a chip because they're afraid the Chinese may be spying on them or there is some hacking going on or something going on, right? Same thing what Pakistan should worry about. If I'm using a chip from some other country, am I sure there's no backdoor in this chip? Nobody's hacking. Would you like to? One example I give: everybody carries a credit card in their pocket. It has a chip called NFC chip. In your passport, Pakistan passport, there's the same chip. In your ID card, there's the same chip. Do we know that chip is not hackable? That chip is not made by Pakistan. We don't know what is in the chip. What happens one day you go to an ATM and you find out that there is no money in the ATM, although your account might be there, but it has been hacked so this is the reason in Pakistan we worry about what we call digital sovereignty. Digital sovereignty means we need to protect our data, we need to protect our connectivity, we need to protect our AI, we need to protect our cybersecurity, which means we need to have the basis. So we want to start training our people so that we can start building that ecosystem. United States, the work that I'm doing in United States is we have many companies there. I have started 23 different semiconductor companies. Many of them are doing different kind of chips. They collaborate with customers and suppliers all over the world. That is still the most exciting place in the world. That's the only place in the world where you can go sit with some young guy and he will tell you that will blow your mind away every day. And this is why people who grew up in Silicon Valley, you can never live anywhere else because this is a drug. Innovation is a drug. Once you are in this drug, you live on the drug. And every day you feel the excitement. I know somebody will walk in to have a coffee with me and tell me something that I never thought about and I never imagined. That is the magic of Silicon Valley that keeps me anchored there. So my heart is in Pakistan. We are trying to build a capability in Saudi Arabia, which I believe will benefit many countries, including Pakistan. And my mind is in Silicon Valley, and the passion is in Silicon. So these are how am I connected to these three places.
Amazing. And this work we're doing in Pakistan, has it ever been done before? Training of people in semiconductors? Some universities must be doing it at a smaller scale or in the past.
Oh, sure. No, I have done that, and many other people have done that. Uh, I was part of Intel Oregon when we went from like 2,000 people to 28,000 people, right, in 5 years. We built capability in many countries around the world. I mean, we built, as part of Intel, we built a capability in India. We built capability in Ireland. We built capability in other countries. Intel has multiple design centers around the world. As part of my other companies, we have built this kind of capability. It's very doable. The issue is not it is not doable. I think the issue is to build the entire ecosystem. Training 5,000 people, 3,000 people is easy. Making sure that they have jobs, making sure there are companies which can use their talent, making sure that IP is available, making sure the tools are available that they need, and the whole ecosystem. That I think takes a lot more. And that's what we are trying to do in Saudi Arabia. And we are also trying to build a strategic bridge between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan because both countries now have an announced strategic agreement which allows us to work on multiple industries and technology areas. Semiconductor is an area where we have very deep roots between the two countries, and we are trying to build on that and to build a strong program so that each country can contribute what they have. Saudi Arabia can contribute capital, they can the customers. Pakistan can contribute trained human resource, and we have a large base of population which needs all these semiconductors. So both countries have a very symbiotic relationship in which we can help each other and build a joint ecosystem that will benefit both countries.
And someone that wants to get started in the semiconductor industry, in design, for instance, what kind of skills or background do they need? Is it a computer scientist or could it be a history person or it needs to be a STEM
Yes,
background?
I would say kind of people that we're looking for should have some basis and understanding of electrical engineering, right? Uh, Computer science background also is useful because they take some computer engineering classes in there. In Pakistan there is a subject called mechatronics. I don't know what it is, but I've seen some of the people from mechatronics also being able to be quickly trained. We have trained many people in Pakistan. We have had many classes before. And what we found out is that it's not necessary that kids coming out of large universities are the best candidates always. Last time we did this training in Lahore, the best university that stood up was University of Engineering and Technology from Texla, a site that I've not heard about before those 10 kids showed up, and they were so much high on our tests. We were forced to go visit that place and figure out what's going on. And it turned out there are two very passionate professors there who had really put their heart and soul into those kids, and that's why those kids were able to shine. So yes, we have pockets of excellence in various different universities. We have a lot of very excited young people, but we need to build an ecosystem. We need to make sure that they have jobs. Training without jobs make no sense, and jobs without passion makes no sense. And passion, jobs, trained with no real commercial activity and product makes no sense. So it's a whole ecosystem. We have to have companies. We are designing amazing products driven by passionate young people who are amazing, want to make a mark on the world, and they are properly trained to be able to do that. So we need to put up this whole thing together. It has to be done simultaneously. You cannot do one after the other.
Okay, so what's the exciting things that we can expect in the next 2 to 3 years in Pakistan with the initiative that you've just set up?
I think the first thing you should do is that we should start identifying chips that we can design in Pakistan, right? So just like we have a great excitement of that we build JF-17, I would have a great excitement if I know that the chips that we are using in JF-17 are designed by Pakistan, right? So same thing you will see in the next 2 3 years. We'll start with smaller chips. They will be designed in potentially collaboration with companies in US, collaboration with companies in Saudi Arabia. So that's our first milestone. Our first milestone is to establish 10, 15, 20 chip design companies or design centers for larger companies in Pakistan. Start employing the people that we are training. These people are getting better and various different aspects of chip design. So our first mark is, can we have 10, 15 or 20 fabulous chip design companies in Pakistan? So I'm hoping in next 2 to 3 years, that's the first thing you will see them established in Pakistan.
So, just not to scare people, but if we have a chips in our cell phones and our ATMs that are from another country, could our whole economy shut down because someone does something bad or has some bad intentions?
um, Economies are typically large and they're very resilient, but can you shut down a banking infrastructure of a country? Yes. Can you shut down hospital infrastructure of one hospital or multiple hospitals? Yes. Can you shut down mobile communication of a country for some time? Yes. Not only it is doable, it has been demonstrated in recent wars that you saw, either it's in the subcontinent or you saw in Middle East. All countries are now using offensive cybersecurity measures, and all countries have demonstrated to one extent or the other how they have been able to inflict some damage or pain to their enemy in cybersecurity domain. So the fact that it can be done is already demonstrated. To the extent it will be done, it will be done, and it will be done more and more and more. So every country should have a defensive cybersecurity, because they will be attacked, and of course they will attack others. So I think this is going to be something that we have to live with. It's just like climate change. Climate change is happening. So, regardless of the reason, climate change is happening and we have to learn to live with it. The world will become hotter in certain places, will become colder in certain places. Same thing, cybersecurity, that your cell phone will be hacked, your bank account will be hacked. It is will happen. Question is how well we defend ourselves. So I don't think we should ask the question if this will happen. I think it will for sure happen. The question is, does it happen at a company level, individual level, nation level, city level? Depends who is attacking, how complicated and sophisticated they are. But the fact that it happens, it is already happening, and it will just happen more and more because it's very lucrative. Whoever does that makes a lot of money. So why would I think they would not do it?
Excellent. Well, on that note, we'll end the podcast. But thank you, Dr. Sherwani, for educating us on semiconductors and for all the hard work you put in. You're really a patriot. You fly in, fly out. You're always at the events, always giving your time to the industry. So thank you for what you're doing, because this is going to have a lasting impact on the country, and it's very strategic for what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.